Thursday against Iowa State without their top rusher after Joe Mixon was suspended for an incident with a parking attendant. This is not Mixon's first suspension after he was suspended in 2014 for punching a woman in the face at a bar. So obviously a sense of entitlement here with Mixon, and this new incident further proves that he has some problems, but he is still on the football field. So Paul, do you agree with how Stoops has handled Mixon's punishment?
Yeah, I mean, Molly, this is such a complicated story, and there's this video that we've all been waiting to see in various forms. I think you have to go back a couple of years. First of all, Mixon missed a year. That's a severe penalty. I don't know how many other head football coaches would do that. We're talking about college football, not the NFL, where Roger Goodell has been reactionary on issues like this. The incident here, it doesn't sound very important. It seems pretty trite in the scheme of things. So I don't have a problem with what Bob Stoops did in this specific case. But I think it's a much bigger issue than what's happening tomorrow night. I think the issue is, should he have ever been allowed to come back to school at Oklahoma?
Yeah, Paul, you can discuss whether he should have ever been allowed to come back to Oklahoma. I think when a guy misses a year, as you said, most college coaches wouldn't have done that. And this is college football where you're trying to help mold young men. So I can definitely understand Bob Stoops trying to help a young man become a man. This parking ticket incident to me is a situation where Joe Mixon just hasn't grown up. And I think if you're Bob Stoops, his leash was very short. And I think even though tearing up a parking ticket doesn't sound like a big deal, I think when you look at his history, I think Bob Stoops just said, you know what, enough is enough. I'm going to show you. If you haven't learned your lesson, I'll make sure you learn your lesson now.
And, Paul, you referred to the video. There is a video of Mixon punching the woman in the face. And you know what? It is very similar to a video that we've all seen of Ray Rice punching a woman in the face. Ray Rice, not on the football field because he's at the end of his career and he hasn't been producing. Mixon has a lot of upside. He's been producing. So, Paul, is the standard of discipline different based on skill level and production?
Oh, I could sit here and tell you that it's an equal system, Molly, but I would not be truthful, and I would be laughed off the set here. Sure it is. If this was a scrub or if this was a backup, he would have been long gone. But this goes for all of college football. And I'm struggling to single out Bob Stoops because I think Bob Stoops has, like Booger said, has tried to help this young man. I've been very outspoken on these issues. In fact, Booker was right there when Nick Saban and I got into it on national television when Saban refused to even answer a question about his star All-American offensive lineman. So I do think there is a terrible double standard. And because of that double standard, players keep abusing the system.
You know, there was a situation that I was told about between Jimmy Johnson and Dan Marino. Dan Marino was at the back of the meeting asleep, and, you know, the head coach tapped him and woke him up and said, you know, hey, Dan, pay attention. And, you know, a rookie did the same thing, and, you know, that rookie was subsequently cut from the team. And it's really a story about everybody being treated equally, but not being treated fairly. Okay, and so when you get a situation like that, I think these coaches have an opportunity to mold young men, to help young men. And I think when it comes to talent, Molly, you have to realize that if you can help my team win, that's my job. My job is to put the best players on the field. And if you're a five-star kid, yeah, I'm going to give you a little bit more leniency than I'm going to give a two-star guy. That's just how life goes. Life isn't necessarily always going to be fair. You know, to whom much is given, much is expected, and much is required, but also much has been given to those guys also.
What is that teaching these young men about a sense of entitlement, though? They're growing young men, and they're allowing them to get away with these disgusting acts like punching a woman in the face. I didn't think I would see Mixon on a football field again after that.
Well, Molly, I don't necessarily know if I'd agree with you when I say get away with. He missed an entire year on the football field. Obviously, is that punishment enough? Of course not. But I think Bob Stoops is trying to, at some point, teach a lesson to a young man. Obviously, it's a very irreprehensible thing that the young man did. Stoops was hoping that maybe he'd learn from that. Obviously, he was on a very, very short leash. Even tearing up a parking ticket got him a one-game suspension. So Joe Mixon hasn't quite learned his lesson. You just hope when young men go to college. This is my hope. I have a son. If he's able to go in and get a college scholarship, whatever coach he goes to, is that coach's job is to help him become a man, go from a young man to being a man. And there are growing pains in there. Everybody's not going to be perfect. I know society wants everyone to be perfect and a choir boy. That's not the life we live in. You just hope that the mistakes you make don't cost you dearly along the lines. And I think Coach Stoops His job as a coach is to help mold young men. These guys are 17 and 18 when they get to college. They're 21 and 22 when they leave. So let's not treat them like adults.
It's also to win football games, and Mixon has helped them win a lot of games.
Right.
That's too bad. Well, one thing's for sure, Mixon has a lot of growing up to do. Hopefully he learns his lesson this time. All right, coming up, Chaos will draw up some what-ifs and try